Hey, I'm Jared from Monster Truck, and you're watching Spotlight Report.
Hi, this is Lee for Spotlight Report. We're here with Jeremy from Monster Truck. Thanks for taking the time to chat to us. You are currently on an Australian tour with Nickelback. How's things been going? This is the third day in tonight in Sydney.
It's been going great. The whole tour's been a lot of fun. We've really had a lot of fun here in Australia, and we've been waiting to get over here for a long time. So the reaction's been good, the food's been great, the coffee's been great, the beer's been great. So there's no complaints.
How about the ladies?
I haven't really gotten into that yet. It's not that I don't want to. They keep us so busy.
Yeah.
And we've been flying between shows, which is a new thing for us. We've never really done that, like kind of bounce between each show on a plane. And between interviews and everything else, there's been no time for the ladies.
And how's it been on tour with Nickelback? Obviously, they have a massive fan base.
Mm-hmm.
How have you found the reception from not just the Australian fans, but like just fans of Nickelback in general?
All I have to go off of is Australian fans so far,
Yeah.
because we've never opened for them anywhere else. But we're going to Europe with them at the end of the year for 2.5 months, so that'll be another kind of eye opener. But their fans have been great to us. With any big tour like this, you get into the situation where the diehards are always at the front row, and they're not so interested in us because they're so laser focused on seeing Nickelback that they're not really interested in the opening band. And so it's a little discouraging at first, but once you get the set underway and you win more of the crowd over, and at the end of the night you go and check the Facebook and the Instagram and you see the reaction, but it's always the people in the upper deck or at the back of the room that are just there for a rock show, and they're a little more open to seeing a new band. So I've never seen so much response actually from a show of this type, where it's 5,000 to 10,000 people, and none of them know who we are, and we've managed to sell more merch than I was expecting, and convert more fans than I was expecting.
And you've done some pretty big tours before, obviously Alice in Chains. How does Nickelback rate in terms of the bands that you've worked with before?
Their production is off the hook, and this isn't even their full production. I don't think they usually have pyro, but I've never seen such a well put together show where they've got all these different moments, and they hit them all right at the time that you'd want to hit them, and the video wall and the light show, and even down to like Chad's like on stage kind of banter with the crowd and like engagement with the fans in the front row and everything. And the first couple nights we were all kind of sitting together as a band and just like watching and being like, holy shit, like they have thought of everything. Like they've really calculated like how to run a very precision rock show, and the crowd eats it up. It's really impressive.
And I suppose whenever you get offered tours, there's an element of deciding whether or not you want to work with a particular band. Nickelback have this love-hate relationship with a lot of people, and it's a strange one. People either love them or they hate them. So was that ever something that factored into the decision of whether or not to do this tour? Not
at all. And I mean, you really need to stop and check yourself a little bit when you start getting into that kind of we don't want to open for this band because of people don't like them, or because whatever reason. It's, if you try and look at it, it's funny, you almost have to look at it from a more like isolated kind of selfish perspective. Is like, we're getting the opportunity to open in front of an insane amount of people who listen to rock music. And for us it's an amazing opportunity. We've never batted an eye at any of these kind of opportunities before, no matter who it's been or what the reason's been that we, maybe people thought we shouldn't have done it. And it's always served us well. Each one always leads into something else. Each one always gives us a new opportunity, or we learn something new from it. And like we were just mentioning with the previous question, the thing with Nickelback is just seeing how precise and how well they run their show. I mean, I've learned so much just from watching their crew. And it was something that I never had thought about before, to that extent, where like everybody has a very specific job and they are so good at doing it. It's something that I think would be a huge advantage to any musician who's looking to try and further their career.
So with your previous album, it was released in 2013, Furiosity.
You say so.
Was it a bit of a hazy period for you? Was it?
It's been a bit of a blur. I mean, with the time change and everything else, we've been drinking a lot, and this whole last 2-3 years of my life has just kind of been like just blurry. But yeah. Curiosity.
And so you've been working on the new album. Can you tell us a little bit about how that process has gone? Obviously, with the success that Furiosity had, has it really changed the way that you approach the making of this album?
It hasn't changed it, and it's more or less dictated the way that we've gone about this record, because we kept a lot the same. You know, we had a lot of success with Furiosity, so we kind of felt the need to like really kind of stick with that game plan, stay with the same producer, use a lot of the same techniques, you know, and just try and evolve them a bit more. You know, like there was a lot of times with the Furiosity recording where we ran out of time or resources, where we weren't able to kind of like expand upon whatever idea we had. So it was basically just using the blueprint from that album and then just giving ourselves a little bit more time and a little bit more resources to kind of evolve it a little bit further, which was kind of the same idea we wanted to do with the songs.
So a lot of bands obviously talk about the second album being one of the more difficult. You haven't really found that, or?
I've known that sentiment and thought about that before we even finished Furiosity, where it was like, I knew we had the songs for Furiosity, and I knew we had like enough songs and the right songs and like a complete record, and I knew that, you know, if it went well, which I felt like it was going to, that we would have this added pressure of like, well, now the next one's got to be even better. And so I think we all kind of had discussed that, you know, that idea before we even started writing, well, before we even started production on this new album, because we started writing for this album, like there's going to be some riffs and songs on this new record that we had before Furiosity was finished.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think that idea of always making sure that you're always writing and you're always being creative and you're always trying to think of new ways and to look at your instrument or whatever, because you never know when you're going to need a tune or you're going to be ending up in the studio. Or I think it's just it's a safe way to keep your mind as a creative person, whether it's music or art or anything. You should always keep it active and always keep it working, because it's the best way to get kind of the best material, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. So, and can you give us an update on when we can expect it?
I think probably September, October of this year. It's pretty much done right now. We might maybe pop another song or two on after the fact. We may not, but as far as what we have right now, it's done. So it's just about getting all that kind of that game plan underway and really like getting a solid foundation on how we're going to roll it out.
So, I mean, the rest of your year pans out now. You've got the next 2 shows of this tour, and then you go back home for a little bit, and then also you're heading over to Europe. You've got a couple of festivals as well planned.
Yeah.
Do you prefer playing the festivals as opposed to the longer tours, or you know, because it's a little bit different, or what's your feelings on that?
In general, I kind of like it all, as long as it's relatively comfortable travel-wise. It's one of those things that it allows you to have such a better show and keep such a better head when you're not in a van traveling 10 hours a day, eating poorly, sleeping in horrible locations. So as long as there's like semi-decent accommodations and travel, I'm down with the festivals. I like the long tours. Especially, I think we all have come to really enjoy touring in Europe and the UK. We're loving our time here in Australia, so that's somewhere that we're hoping to get back to again soon. And it's just all really about keeping busy, and we've been fortunate enough to have the amount of success now where we don't really have to do those grueling van tours that really kind of sap the life out of us slowly until you're sitting there kind of a shell of yourself, so it's nice to be able to enjoy all of it.
And if you were going to sum up a monster truck show to people who haven't come out and caught you guys before, what would you tell them to expect?
It's just a rock show. It's a really, it's a simple kind of bare bones rock show. We try and hit all the high points and all the low points, and kind of give people something that is at least our version of what we think an authentic rock and roll experience is like. We try to add some of the new, some of the old, and just kind of give people, I always like to bring up the fan base that we have in Canada. There's a lot of older rock guys there that they're really excited because they hadn't had a reason to go out and see a show in a long time, and that's what they tell us when they come out. So it's always nice to hear that.
And I think obviously you touched on a bit of the old, a bit of the new. You've got a lot of bluesy undertones in a lot of your songs. I think you use obviously a number of different influences in a really cool way. I mean, who are your main influences?
You know, it's funny because I feel like that's been one of the things that we really nailed too, which is that we've been able to take a lot from a lot of different great bands. But it's mostly due to the fact that everyone in the band has really different interests, and it's like me and Marv. You know, we grew up a lot on the classic rock, and both of our fathers had an insane vinyl collection where they're constantly playing us, you know, Pink Floyd and Zeppelin and Sabbath and everything. And you know, Brandon and Steve love those bands too. And you know, Steve really kind of he's got a real soft spot for Rage Against the Machine, so he brings a lot of those elements in. Brandon's got a huge array of music that he likes to listen to in jam bands and all kinds of stuff. So it's really about kind of just finding a way to marry all those things in a way that doesn't seem kind of haphazard.
Yeah.
You know, there can be that tendency where if you try and do too much, you end up with nothing. So it's just kind of lucky in the way that we've been able to kind of meld it together, and it's been a real kind of testament to the interests and the strengths of the four members of the group.
Cool. And obviously, we touched on some of the bands that you've worked with before. Who are bands that you look up to, and who would you like to go on tour with?
You know, we've had a lot of fun with the guys in Rival Sons. You know, we did a short run with them early at the end of last year, and we kind of really connected well with them on a personal level. And as far as the show was concerned, it was a really good combination for the show. Sometimes it's difficult because you don't necessarily want two of the same type of band, and you also don't want two very different types of bands. There's this really kind of like cool relationship that we are able to have with the music with them, where you know, if you've got some fans that want a little bit more of the harder stuff, you can have us, and if you have some people that want a little bit more of a groovier kind of lower down tempo moments in the set, they've got a lot of those kind of songs. So it's got something for everybody, and at the same time both fans can like both bands. It was just really cool for us to play with them, and it's something that I look forward to doing. I know we'll probably cross paths again soon.
Perfect. Well, thanks for your time, Jeremy, and good luck with the rest of the show, and obviously going over to Europe later on in the year. We look forward to the new record. If you haven't listened to it, get Furiosity now. It's a great record. So
Thank you.